Hey everyone, this is Yeri with a brief forecast for the month of October 2025, especially highlighting overall well-being and areas where psychic self-defense is advised. I do apologize for the tardiness and brevity of my messages lately, as it's been a very busy season. There are a couple of different areas that I want to go over in particular about this month, and the first one is that as we've entered this month, we are in the season of Libra, and Libra's planetary ruler Venus is in a conjunction with the South Node in Virgo. And so there is this tone of Venus and the South Node combined, bringing closure to some very important areas of our lives and relationships. And with the closure, in many ways, new levels of understanding about what was exchanged, what was given, received, or simply experienced. And again, because it's in Virgo, it's about working relationships or situations that have been a labor of love. Even some type of offering, sacrifice, or devotion to loved ones, nature, the community, or the world at large. And together, Venus and the South Node can also have a very spiritualizing influence, especially because they are opposite of Pisces, and that polar opposite sign is calling us toward a higher form of love and alignment with higher truths that bring a greater sense of harmony into our lives. So that's one thing that's going on. The other is that there is a building conjunction between Mercury and Mars in the sign of Scorpio, forming a grand water trine to Saturn and the North Node in Pisces, and to Jupiter in Cancer. And this conjunction between Mercury and Mars becomes exact just before the new moon in Libra on the 21st. But before I go into that, I just want to say that it doesn't matter what sign Mercury and Mars are in when they come together. This is a very powerful combination, and it's not a very easy one because these two planets are at odds with each other, but they can be very stimulating. A lot of growth can happen, a lot of profound insights, exchanges, and communications can take place. Now, the sign will definitely indicate the nature of the types of conversations and thoughts and ideas that will be emerging. And Scorpio, no joke, is going to be bringing up some very intense topics and issues to be worked through and purified and to be aired out. And so this might be uncomfortable, but it's not necessarily going to be chaotic or anything. The craziest transits of the year have passed. The eclipse season has passed, and the worst, or I could say the most tumultuous retrogrades have passed. But this is its own thing that's going to be challenging us in the way of how we deal with really uncomfortable subjects that have been buried. And so this sort of excavation is happening, uncovering whether it's in our own world, in our own psyches, or with specific people in our lives, even with the collective. And it's going to probably also be a good material for any creative projects. This could be very inspiring, but in a way that is kind of edgy and has that sort of Scorpio undertone to it. Like we're dealing with some dark subject matter right now, and then when you look at everything happening in the world, no wonder. We're talking about death, sex, the occult, hidden forces, hidden enemies. psychic powers, inner motivations and drives. All of these things, not for all people, but in general, these are the types of subjects that are becoming inflated. And so the grand water trine will also inflate that in the conjunction. And because Saturn is together with the North Node, even though it has been separating for a while in Pisces, that also makes for a rather serious or melancholic tone. Now, Jupiter in Cancer helps with, because it's in its exaltation in Cancer, this is an aspect that is rather helpful. That is to say, the trine being formed to Jupiter in preventing things from going so far off the deep end, like you can't come back from it. So it's sort of a protective buffer in that way. So let us look briefly at the full moon, October 6th, which is in the sign of Aries, the sign of individuality and agitation and impatience. There could be a heightening of some kind of tension, conflict, or simply a need for self-assertion in a strong way, because things have escalated now. So certain words have to be spoken, actions must be taken, it cannot wait, this is the moment, strike while the iron's hot, that kind of thing. And going back to Libra's planetary ruler, Venus, is coming into an opposition with Saturn. So it would not be surprising if this time period, this whole first week of October, has this feeling of separation and separation anxiety, or a feeling of, again, what's ending. Certain relationships could be coming to a close. And there might be even a feeling of grief for different reasons. But again, there's also with that more understanding about why certain things have taken place. So it's not like senseless things, like, that always happens in this world, but for many of us, it will be, oh, I get it now. I see the bigger picture. I understand. I see the whole patterns and how this whole picture of how things happen in a certain sequence. And in a way, as painful as it might be, that recognition can bring inner peace. And though the struggle may be real this month, it wouldn't be far off to say that the greatest enemy we face is to be found in our own reflection, our own selves. Where are we self-sabotaging? That's another question for this full moon. By the time we reach the new moon on October 21st, we are looking at things with a lot more clarity, even more clarity and understanding than we thought we could possibly gain. And that is for those who are willing to receive it. Some people will go into full-scale denial. They don't want to hear it. And that's a personal choice. But for the people who are willing to plumb the depths, that Mercury and Mars will be together. If you look at Black Moon Lilith, well, throw her in the mix too. And that makes this even more potent and just gives further testimony to how deep and dark and primal and spiritual this concoction is, this grand water trine. So it'll be 28 degrees of Libra. I'm sorry, I didn't even mention the full moon on the 6th is going to be 14 degrees of Aries. The new moon will be 28 degrees of Libra. The seeds being planted at this time are bringing maturity to our relationships, not only to others, but to ourselves and the universe at large. One of the dangers that lies in this particular configuration is that there could be a lot of anger coming up, and even Libra is a sign that correlates with deep, sudden, unexpected anger or eliciting anger in others. This should be dealt with carefully, channeled perhaps into some sort of physical activity or into a creative outlet. It is something that could be very destructive to one's health, to one's relationships. So do be aware of either your own angry outbursts tendencies or the anger of others, and try to stay clear and just wait it out. Don't get in the way. The sun will be entering into the sign of Scorpio the day after the new moon, and that is the time when more people notice the veils between the worlds beginning to thin, sensitivities running high, and all kinds of goblins and other creatures running amok in the astral, messing with people. So instances of sleep paralysis become more common, and just dark looming energies. Definitely making this a time when psychic self-defense becomes more imperative. Remember that your first line of defense is in the physical, so stay hydrated, keep your immune system up, get adequate sunlight and exercise, eat well, and then if you still have issues, that's when you go to the metaphysical tools and do those extra things to protect yourself. There are lots of ideas outlined in my book, Psychic Self-Defense in the Zodiac. If you don't have a copy, I highly suggest reading it. And that is my forecast for this month. I hope you enjoyed listening. And until next time, take care, and I'll talk with you soon.